Hey everybody, it's Jonna, coming back to do another video on science fiction and spirituality. Today we're going to be looking at Jungian archetypes in season 4 of Stranger Things. I love Stranger Things. I especially love season 4. I didn't anticipate all the ways the story was going to kind of grow together and connect. And so I found myself noticing the patterns. I know in recent videos I've been talking about how characters can be aspects of ourselves, and I think that's very true of Stranger Things, especially if you are an 80s baby like myself, and that era has a lot of feelings of nostalgia for you. It kicks up a lot of memories, and those archetypes are there for a reason. So for the sake of this video, I'm only working with the characters who are identified in starring roles in season 4 on Stranger Things Wikipedia page. And I'm also going to be using this shadow archetypes diagram, which I found on Reddit. There's a little teeny tiny credit right here, but I just want to make sure to give credit where credit's due with these ideas. I'm going to play with them a little bit I guess to make my point, but also to expand a little bit on what these mean. So what are these archetypes? There's this idea that we have an outer self and a shadow self, and that we need both of them, right? And also that these archetypes are sort of emblematic of different aspects of humanity and of ourselves. So where better to start than with Mama Bear herself? And just making sure this is recording. So there's sort of these sort of the self archetypes and then the shadow side. So some of these characters have a shadow self that I'm going to play with a little bit. Some of them don't. That doesn't have any depth or meaning right now. Just a way to look at the number of characters we had from the season. So we have Joyce and Karen. So we're going to start with Mama Bear Joyce, who is emblematic of parenthood, I think, throughout the show, even when she's kind of wild and crazy. And I have her down as the caregiver, which is just, she's emblematic of parenthood. She's a source of comfort and strength for a lot of the characters that we follow, the kiddos. And on the flip side, I have Karen, who is a very stereotypical 80s movie mom, and sort of flawed, right? She misses a lot of things. And the flip side of the caregiver on the archetypal diagram is the slave. I didn't want to go with that. I use the word doula, right? There's that same ontological meaning there with doula as like a servant. And there are some, theories about season 5 that Karen has a bigger role to play. So that's part of what got my attention in that regard. But I also think that Karen and Joyce are playing off of one another a little bit here in terms of the dynamics of motherhood and what it means, especially in the 80s, to show up as a mom. Joyce's boys are a little more wild and free. Karen is attempting to hold her family together, but she keeps slipping a bit. So her family life looks a little more nuclear in terms of what we might have seen on like a television sitcom in the 80s. I think Joyce has a bit more realism. You can still unpack that more and more in terms of femininity and motherhood on the whole. But Joyce and Karen, the mother, the caregiver, and the doula, the servant of this other archetype happening in the show. Hopper and Henry. I have Hopper down as the hero. And you might be saying Eleven's really the hero of the show, or maybe even Will, but I have some other thoughts on them. I think Hopper is the hero because that's the role he's looking to play, right? He has had this failure early on in his life, before the show starts, where his daughter died and his marriage ended in divorce, and he's pretty wounded. But he's the guy who shows up and keeps sacrificing, not only for Eleven, but for himself and the whole. His sacrifices move the story forward. That's very heroic in a very traditional sense. And Henry, spoiler alert, Vecna, number 1 here. I have him down as the villain because, of course, I mean, he's the bad guy in season 4. And I think there's good reason to think that maybe there's a redemption arc coming in season 5, but for right now, he's our villain. He's the one actualizing all the nasty stuff that's been happening in our characters' lives for the past forever here in oh my gosh, I blanked on the name. Hawkins. And of course we have 11, the magician. 11 is pure power. She is connected to the workings not only of the universe that Stranger Things takes place in, but also in the Upside Down. And this is perhaps a bit more lighthearted. Maybe Argyle could have fit in the jester role, but I have him here as the trickster because he is high through most of the show and he sees things differently. He notices some things that the other characters don't know. He doesn't mislead them in any way. I think in a roundabout way he's getting them to the truth, but he kind of introduces Jonathan to this more avoidant lifestyle that I'll talk about in a little bit. We don't see that actually happen, but we have an understanding of how Argyle, we can anticipate, has impacted Jonathan's lifestyle since moving to California. So just disclaimer, this is probably a picture of the actors and not the characters because these two characters just don't have a lot of scenes together. But I have Mike as the explorer. The explorer is someone who's looking for a lot of freedom. If you're familiar with season 4, you know that is what Mike is after. He's looking to be able to be himself. He's pushing back against some of the relationships he's in. That's the arc and the narrative that he's working through in season 4. And the flip side of the explorer is the raider. And I know that conveys a sense of some thievery of sorts. And certainly Robin's not a thief, but she is pretty quick to join in battle. And another definition for raider is a soldier, someone who's in the mix. And Robin very quickly joins the crew out of her commitment to Steve as his friend, but she's very eager to join in and help out. And so I thought that toughness of the raider really fit her. All right, so this one is fun. Dustin as the creator. Dustin is the one who imagines problem-solving skills to get them out of mess after mess after mess. And the flip side on that initial chart that I showed of the creator is the destroyer. I didn't like the destroyer so much as the disruptor for Erica. In season 3 and season 4, we see how Erica pushes back against Dustin, and her pushing back, again, propels the storyline forward. It makes Dustin think harder and work harder. These two pair up really well. So I have Lucas as the everyman. The key theme in the storyline, or the working stuff outness of the everyman, is belonging. And in season 4, here he is in his basketball jersey. He's really working out how he belongs to his friend group from middle school, but also how he fits in with the high school boys as part of the basketball team. And it doesn't go well for some of the basketball team. But anyways, Lucas has this arc where he's trying to figure out where he fits in. And that's something we can all relate to. Will and Max. So Will is the innocent, right? He's the one of the friend group that's struggling to grow up a little bit. He had this really painful experience of being lost in the Upside Down, which his friends didn't experience, and it set him on a slightly different course. We're still unfolding what that is, right? I think season 5 hopes to give us a lot more about Will. And the flip side of the innocent is the victim. I didn't like the victim, so I have Max as the wounded healer. Her fragility or her brokenness in season 4 is like I could keep talking about how all the characters are moving the storyline forward. Max in particular, with this woundedness, moves the storyline forward a lot, and her willingness to face that. And it's her bravery in that work that moves the story forward so much in season 4, and I think will continue to do so in season 5. She, the wounded healer term, I know it from Henry Now, and I think that maybe is where it originated, is this notion that it's not about being perfect and showing up perfectly, but it's about finding a way to use our brokenness to not only heal ourselves, but heal others. I have about half my list left to go, so I'm going to have to start at part 2.